Is there another way I should be trying to log in? Because I used the link and then I tried manually using the webinar number and the password does not work. I tried both the ones with the letters and I also tried the one with the numbers. It does not accept either of them. And it just keeps bringing me back in as an attendee.
We just tried one thing. I want to see if we can do it directly from the thing. For our ASL interpreters, do you mind just direct sharing your emails one more time? Again, for our ASL interpreters, if you just want to check your emails real quick, I believe you should have just gotten an additional participant email. I'm hoping that this one will allow you on. Not sure why the original one isn't.
It worked.
quick question for those in the chat. We were trying to cut down on the echo. I don't know that we just did work. Is everyone still receiving a bit of an echo?
I think you have to mute one of the computers you have logged in.
See, one should actually be muted.
I wonder if it's because we weren't muted. Maybe if we're muted.
This is what it was.
How are we now for audio? Can everyone hear us? No echo? Excellent. All right. So we are coming up on about 1:10. I will probably get started then, just so we can sort of keep moving along. I do see a note in the chat from Bob saying that there is one as a host and one as a co-host. This is correct. The host video is going to be a more widescreen. It should be showing everything. The co-host video is a secondary camera that we have set up that should hopefully allow you to get a better, closer view of the machines themselves, and which I can also detach and bring over to look down at a different angle on the machines if we want to show you any additional stuff that we wouldn't be able to pick up on just a direct forward-facing camera. So that's why we have those two screens set up. It may be a little bit disorienting, but it's in our efforts to be able to show you as much as possible, both from a wide view, so you know that there's no smoke and mirrors, but also so that you get a more close-up view of what is actually going on the screens themselves. All right, so I think we are good to go ahead and get started. Welcome to our online-only version of the Dominion Democracy Suite 5.16, 516 certification for New York State. I am just going to go ahead and quick close the door so we don't get any outside audio, and then we will start with introductions. I am Colin Palumbo. I will be your presenter today. In the room with me, but not on camera, I do have Melissa Portalatin, who should be monitoring the chat for some of your questions. And we have our ASL interpreters here as well, and we thank them for joining us today. The components that we will be going over today are the Dominion ImageCast Precinct, the Dominion ImageCast Precinct 2, the Dominion ImageCast Evolution. So if you want to just pan real quick. The Dominion ImageCast X ballot marking device. And the Dominion ImageCast Central Count System. We're going to start with the ImageCast Precinct, and we're going to start with the ImageCast Precinct because it has been around the longest in New York State. This is strictly a firmware update for the ImageCast Precinct. There are no real hardware changes. It is on a new box. It is the plastic hard shell as opposed to the metal hard shell. Functionally, there is no real difference between the plastic hard shell and the metal hard shell. They are both roughly 4 foot by 2 foot boxes in length and width, roughly 4.5 feet. No, I apologize, 4 feet, not 4.5 feet, roughly 4 feet high. I'm messing up my dimensions. They run both on a backup internal power source and a hardwire plug that goes into the wall. The backup power source should last for, I'll just hit the lights so it stays on permanently. Sorry about that. I was not making enough motion to keep our lights on. I will be more animated, so that should keep our lights on. So, ImageCast Precinct, 2-hour backup battery, but really should be plugged in most of the day. Has the standard tape, which, Melissa, if you just want to, I think I will actually adjust the camera for now. Grab it. Just so that you So this is an interrupt tape because I did not re-zero the machine after our morning demonstration. So we reopened the polls. It's showing that there were 3 votes cast this morning at our morning demonstration. The inspectors would then take that tape, sign off on it. This would be for something like early voting, where you are shutting down the machines each night and restarting them in the morning. You are not interrupting the voting cycle. You are not re-zeroing anything. You are just having a continuous stream of ballots. You are starting at the same number that you ended at the last day. For the ImageCast precinct, the voter fills out their ballot. This one is an overvoted ballot. The voter then takes the ballot, inserts it into the machine. It feeds into the machine. And because I have overvoted on this machine, I don't know how much the audio just picked that up, but the machine would start beeping at you, and it pops up a message that you have overvoted on X number of contests. In this case, I have overvoted on 1 contest. I have the option to cast the ballot or return the ballot, which I'm going to grab the close-up camera again. If everyone could just see that light up version. I did just time out. It will automatically return the ballot if you do time out. But lights up, voter has the option to either cast the ballot or return the ballot. In this case, we are going to cast the ballot. You're likely not going to have heard that, but there was just a slight thunk. That is the ballot falling into the machine. Now, I'm going to give you a quick look into the internals of the machine. So please pay attention to the close-up camera because I might be ducking down and popping off. You want me to hold it? So this is the inside of the machine. Ballots fall down here, fall into the central container, stay there until the end of the night. This is a locking compartment. It would also have a security seal on it for the voters to confirm that a continuous chain of custody has been maintained. There is also a write-in compartment as well for write-in ballots to fall and be separated according to New York state law. Before we move on to the other machines, does anyone have any questions about the ImageCast precinct? I do see one question from Lulu about the protective counter. The interpretation of the New York State Board of Elections in conjunction with our counsel's office is that the wording there allows for the protective counter to be viewed through a menu by an inspector and a poll watcher, anyone like that. There is no requirement that it be visible to the voter continuously on the main screen. Because the protective counter is accessible to inspectors, that satisfies that New York State requirement. I have a question from Julie about the measured size of the ballot. All have dimensions of 11 by, 8.5 by X, starting with, for the X, from 11 up to 28 inches in ballot length. Intervals in between are 17, I believe it's actually 22.5, and then 28. So you have those different ballot lengths depending on the number of contests that you have in an election. We will do more close-ups of the ballot as we run through the rest of these, so we will show you more of the ballot. It is all the same ballot, so each of these machines uses the same style of ballot. If I decided to, I could program all 3 of these machines for one district, issue the exact same ballots to every voter that comes through, and they could go and cast the ballots on any one of these machines. Good question from Royal. Where does the scan data get stored? I just saw more questions come up. I'll get to those in a second. The scan data gets stored slightly differently on each of the machines, but each machine has 2 sets of memory cards. The memory cards do change from machine to machine, but each machine has 2 sets of memory cards. Duplicate data is stored on both memory cards, so even if one memory card fails, you still have the secondary memory card. So the ICP has CF cards. The ICE over here to my left also has CF cards. They're just mounted slightly separately, not directly in the front. And then the ICP2 has moved to SD cards. Each ballot, each memory card compartment is capable of being sealed with what is referred to as a harpoon seal. Those are the security seals, tamper evident seals that feed one end through the tie hole, essentially locking in place until they are cut. We do have seal logs for each of these machines that county boards of elections need to use to confirm continuous chains of custody throughout the entire election deployment process. So, I'm going to just address Julie's first question and then the second question. So, all ballots are going to be slightly different because each person's handwriting is going to be slightly different. But yes, in terms of an image, each ballot will be identical, whether it comes from the ballots being issued to the voters at the check-in table or to ballots going through and coming out of a BMD. Each ballot is functionally identical, and as we will address when we get into the ICE's BMD component and the ICX's ballot marking device component, the ballot marking device does make efforts to disguise the fact that a computer is doing the marking of the ballot before the ballot is printed, to make it harder to differentiate between a ballot that was filled out by hand and a ballot that was filled out on the ballot marking device. The other question, all 3 of these machines will, in your aim, be certified for use in New York State. At this point in time, the entire certification is lumped together. I know that we have had certifications that have gone through in the past where select machines have been approved, but certain components have not been approved. that has not been raised at this point in time. Moving on to the ImageCast Precinct 2. So the ImageCast Precinct 2 has not been certified in any configuration in New York State so far. It is essentially a direct hardware upgrade from the ImageCast Precinct. So the ImageCast Precinct got certified in New York State in 2008. The hardware existed before that. There have been advances in miniaturization and computing hardware and motherboards, backup batteries. All of that has come leaps and bounds forward since 2008. So in order to meet the needs of client counties, the ImageCast Precinct 2 takes the software that was the ImageCast Precinct, updates it to work with the new Windows 10 based EMS and Windows 10 based server system on the back end in the air-gapped server network at a county board of elections, and adds some hardware upgrades on the front end to make life easier for voters, for poll workers, and for county board of election staff. One of the big changes, and I'm going to do another close-up view. Although the LCD screen remains the same size as it was on the ImageCast Precinct, it is now a more vibrant, colorful screen, providing more detail to the voter. It's got that nice little arrow for feeding the ballot in. Its language is crisper in the language option, so if I would like to speak or switch to Spanish, I can just switch crisply to Spanish right there. Go back to English. I also, on the machine, instead of the CF cards I mentioned, have SD cards. So these SD cards are able to transfer data faster, which means that the images from the ballots are written to them faster and then sent to the EMS faster when read in at the end of the night and returned to a board of elections. I have another ballot here to get a close-up for people. This is what your ballot would look like. Going to Julie's question on language, the language questions. So yes, other language packs are available, especially for New York City with its several different language requirements. We just have English and Spanish loaded because those are ones when we copied over the election from one of our partner counties. They are a multilingual county, so they have the English and the Spanish configured. So that's why it's English and Spanish. But yes, it does have the supports for multiple languages. That button that I pressed where to go to select languages, instead of just showing up as English and Spanish, it would be English, Spanish, Cantonese, or English, Spanish, Mandarin, English, Spanish, Portuguese, or expanding out, English, Spanish, Cantonese, Portuguese, Mandarin. To Lulu's question, why do we need the Dominion ICX if we have the ImageCast Precinct 2? So, one thing the ImageCast Precinct 2 is not, it is not a ballot marking device. The ImageCast Precinct 2, just like the ImageCast Precinct 1, is strictly an optical scan ballot tabulator. it does not have any BMD component. In the old certification, you had the ICP BMD. That is not included in this certification. That was an ICP that on the back end of the machine, to the rear of the machine, had a ballot marking device incorporated onto it there. They've also introduced the ICE, which we'll get to next, which does include a ballot marking device strictly straight on the main screen. But the ICX is another version of ballot marking device. So it would run in conjunction with an ImageCast Precinct 2 as opposed to replacing an ImageCast Precinct 2 or vice versa. And yes, that is correct. They are no longer selling ImageCast Precinct BMDs. Some of the components are end of life and are not replaceable. The old certification will remain in effect because we do not decertify old certifications just because we have certified a new version, and counties are able to continue using it. But this is more of, well, what happens next? What guarantees that their software is not programmed to change votes when they're tabulated? Well, you have the VSTL, VSTL testing through the EAC and the Help America Vote Act, where it goes through that. You have the hash check procedure that each and every machine goes through each year, which is a hash check to confirm that there have been no changes to the firmware from when that trusted build version of the firmware that went through that EAC and New York State testing then went out and was loaded onto the machines. You also, at the beginning of every election, have a series of logic and accuracy tests performed in the eyes of a bipartisan team of, and each county is going to call them something a little bit different, but people certified by the two main parties in New York State to act as their representatives and observe the process, to confirm that when ballots are going through the machine, that they are counting as they correctly should. Furthermore, the machines all go through a 3% audit at the end of the election. So after the election is over, a random drawing of 3% of the machines, of the total machines used, are drawn, and those machines then go through a full hand count or independent audit tool audit of the ballots cast to confirm that the votes match up. I'm going to drop this ballot into the ICP2. Same little thunk. The ICP2 also comes with a nice beep after the thunk. It might not be audible because it is a relatively quiet one. Would be hard for just our main mics to pick up, but it's added that beep as well. So unlike the ICP that is just the thunk of your ballot dropping into the main container, you have So the 3% audit has been escalated in the past. It just based on things that were found in discrepancies between the machine and the independent audit tool, just where the independent audit tool is judging something to be a write-in, most usually, that the machine itself, because it has a higher threshold to pick something up, is not picking that up. It is very rare that it's escalated. Usually, when you go up to 5%, and again, that discrepancy is not actually a discrepancy. It's simply a programming difference between the independent audit tool or the humans doing the audit and the programming thresholds of the machines, because for machine boxes, they're I have audits that have gone up to 5% because it's an internal process. So again, that's not actually going back to it. If a write-in and a undervote are saying that the same number of votes were cast, the machine just tabulated it as an undervote. The independent audit tool or the human is determining it to be a write-in. That is the mark not filling enough of the space to rise to the level of a write-in in the machine's programming. That is the one that we do see. Moving on to the ICE. So the ICE has been certified in New York State in its previous configuration. It is going to continue over into 5.16. So, as I mentioned earlier, the ICP, unlike the ICP, the ICE, unlike the ICP and the ICP2, contains a ballot marking device as well as a optical scan machine scanner. The difference here is that instead of just being able to tabulate a vote, it is also able to provide voters who need more accessible options the ability to go through and cast their ballot just like anyone else going through the election process. So if a voter came in and spoke with the inspector and requested the use of the ballot marking device on the ICE, the inspector would take one of their blank ballots they would apply the I button. And it is important to note that the I button that I'm showing you now, the last two machines also use I buttons as one of their compensating security controls. You cannot just walk up to the machine and access the setting, change the settings, do anything like that. You do need to have both a confirmed validated I button and the numeric password that goes along with the I button. So, inspector takes their I button, applies it to the I button port, which would bring up the inspector menu. They would begin an accessible voting session. Now, you have two options with an accessible voting session. You have the option to return the ballot after the machine is done printing. So it spits the ballot back out to you. So the voter can then review the ballot, confirm that all of the choices have been made. That is what is recommended in New York State. I'm going to change this. Always return ballot. And we are going to start the accessible voting session. We changed rooms and the ATI came loose. So we are going to insert ballot into the machine. The voter would then be given the ATI controller panel or the ability to insert into the ATI controller panel either a pre-provided version of the paddles, which are a left and right paddle that are essentially a binary control, and the sip and puff machine. So To begin, they're going to select the red X. We are going to use the ATI here. We are going to show the voting session on the screen. For voters who have no need of that, who are only using the audio portion, they can disable this, but that defeats the purpose of showing it to you in a video. So we do not have speakers configured on this one. We do have headphones. Just turn the audio on to see if we can hear it on the camera. So. And yes, voters can absolutely bring their own headphones. So if a voter wants to have their own headphones, it's just a standard headphone jack. So any headphones with a standard audio jack will just feed right into the ATI. These headphones are mildly noise canceling. They're not proper noise canceling headphones. No. I took too long on that. Oh, no. I pulled the ATI out. In a polling place, and yes, confirming that a headphone must be wired, not wireless. There is no capability to connect anything wirelessly. That includes the headphones. So I can change ballot zoom, zooming to significantly larger, significantly smaller, seeing the whole ballot, or a middle size. We're going to zoom to significantly larger, just to provide you with the best visibility. I can change the display contrast, so I can pop it to white on black or black on white, depending on the voter's preferences. From there, I'll begin my voting session. I'll vote for a candidate. Current contest is fully voted. Continue voting. I can also undervote. Say I don't want to vote for anyone in this contest. It asks me if I'm sure. I am. I will continue voting. This is a vote for 2. I am just going to vote for 1. Because I don't like my other options. As my choice, it does tell me that I have not fully voted. Does the ICE present a ballot that closely resembles a printed ballot? Are contests rearranged in surprising ways compared to the sample ballots? The ICE presents a ballot that is identical to a printed ballot, and we will pop it out in just a second. So I have reached the end of my ballot. I am giving the choice. Do I want to make changes or do I want to accept as is? I just remembered I want to cast a write-in vote. I come down to write-in, and just like everyone else, as a voter in New York State, I have the option to cast a write-in vote. Instead of typing out a full name, I am simply going to select the name A, just as a voter name, as a placeholder. Going to continue through my whole keypad. To the OK option to confirm that I'm good with the write-in. I have selected A, is that correct? Confirm. Current contest is fully voted. And that was my write-in, so I'm done now. I'm going to confirm that I have made all the I do have a request to type a full name, so I'll do it for president. Now, as we know, in New York State, write-ins for president only count if they are one of the qualified write-ins. I don't have the last list of qualified write-ins on me for writing it in at the top of my head. I will go write it myself. So I'm going to C, to O, then L, back to I, over to N, add a space, putting in a P, A, M, B, L. To get a better picture of the ATI device as we use this, I will go ahead and, oh, that's not the last name of the candidate I wanted to vote for. We'll back out there. Candidate I actually wanted to vote for is Colin Elections. Here I will hit OK. I have selected Colin Elections. Is that correct? I will confirm that that is correct. The handwriting on there is designed to mimic human handwriting. It's not perfect, but it's close enough that without a far more thorough investigation of the ballot than should really be happening, because you should not be going and looking for ballots that were cast by BMD as opposed to just a standard insert. It would be difficult to tell at first glance. And we'll get more into that once we print this out. So it does take a little bit to print out, but once it prints out, you have a ballot complete with, like this one. Minor little discrepancies, so it is not perfectly filling in an oval to again mimic human handwriting. So going back to it, yes, at the very beginning when you are setting up an accessible voting session, you are selecting to either go to review the paper or to direct cast. So it does have the capability to direct cast if the voter so chooses. Again, we wouldn't recommend using that. The default setting in New York State is the ballot printing direct to review because that fulfills New York requirements. So can you just set that down real quick so we can limit the motion? That's about as close as I can get it before it'll start getting blurry for being too close. Royal, to your question, using ICE regularly for voting in place of hand-marked ballots. There are counties that are using ICE. ICE, although it is a ballot marking device, is not really designed to be used in place of hand-marked ballots. The standard operation is to issue hand-marked ballots and then to use the ICE for voters who require a BMD. It is set up so that the voter should not feel any different from another voter because they're still at the same screen and doing it that way. But they are going through a ballot marking process that not every voter is going through. There is no county in New York State that is using the ballot marking device for every single voter because that's not the design of the machine. Voters are free to request it, but the majority of voters are still doing their hand-marked ballots. Does that answer that question? So yes, even counties that have gone to ballot on demand printing in cases, they should still have, as part of their procedure, a supply of pre-printed ballots that can be issued if anything were to go wrong with that ballot on demand printer, so there is no interruption of the election. Royal, yes, they are being used for early voting, but they are not. They are deployed as optical scan machines. Voters are still The request to make it full screen, I don't know that we can do that and still have our ASL interpreters on the screen as well. Unfortunately. But back to Royals. So they are used for early voting, just like the ICP BMDs before them were used for early voting. So you have voters coming in, they are hand marking their ballots, and then in cases where the BMD needs to be used, that's where the BMD is being activated. So it's not everyone who is using the ballot marking device. It is voters who are requesting to use the ballot marking device. Speaking of ballot on demand functionality, I am just going to print another blank ballot real quick. So to use the paddle button, screen, left red paddle. Large, firm. I'm going to change the display contrast. Boy. Continuing to use the paddles. that contest. George. Justin. Paul. I will. This contest. I've reached the end. I'm going to accept my selections.
Oh, we have a few questions about the sharp object.
So, I do know that one accessible voter who I have encountered in my time with the Board of Elections used the paddles with her knees. There's ways to lean on it. I'm using it with prehensile thumbs because I am most familiar with prehensile thumbs. But for those who are paddle users, there are a variety of different ways that you can control the paddle because again, it is essentially a single binary press that they are using to control it. They really only need to press one button at a time. So they only need the capability to press one button at a time. There are a variety of different ways that they can do that. I know I've heard tell of one that did it with a foot, and I believe one that did it with an elbow. Um, uh, any other questions right now on the paddles? That would be up next. Going to take this one. I'm actually going to take it and put it into the ICP2 because again, a ballot is a ballot. Funks right into the machine, all set, good to go. It's important that a ballot is a ballot. Going to print one more blank ballot. I still have lung capacity. So using the sip and puff. Where? Sorry, my lungs are not what they used to be. So, I don't know how well exactly that came through on the video. But it is going through. And for those more familiar with the sip and puff, it should go faster because I suck with the sip and puff. I just effectively jammed the machine because I pulled the ballot back out. Because I just wanted to show you that, yes, the ballot was marked with that sip and puff. Yes, there are sterile covers for each sip and puff. I will hold that up in just a second. Because it's less sterile cover, more of, so this component here that I just took off, this is a replaceable component. So each time a voter comes in and needs to use the sip and puff, basically, so this is one-time use. You put it on the, if you can see the nozzle there, you affix the one-time use blow to the top, and then once they're done, you just toss it in the trash, and the next time someone would come in, you would affix the next one onto it. I just have the one because we just have the one as part of our Sip and Puff supplies. I'll probably need to get more after this, but because I was going to be the only one using it today, I only grabbed the single one because I don't have a ton to just throw away. Yes, voters can bring their own straws. This is a good question. So Sip and Puffs have a jack or a jack capability. The system is designed to be integrated with if a voter brings their own Sip and Puff and wants to plug it in, so they can do so. Same goes for the paddles, actually. The paddles, if it has a jack, can be plugged directly into the ATI. So if you have personally calibrated paddles, which we do know that some voters have, you can just equip that directly. Same goes for the Sip and Puff, because as several of the vendors like to point out, the Sip and Puff that they use is not calibrated for anyone. Most voters who have Sip and Puff needs have personally calibrated Sip and Puffs that are calibrated directly to their lung capacity and thus are much more effective at conveying that voter's needs. Yes, it comes out of a sterile packaging. So each one is packaged inside like medical packaging and comes out that way. Availability of Dominion Tech assistance during elections in case machines go down. That would be up to the individual Board of Elections. Do I know that they provide it? Yes, I do, because they provide it to the city of Philadelphia on election day. And a lot of the techs that you might see currently around New York State, if you were County Board of Elections personnel, were the same techs that you were seeing on the news counting absentee ballots and all of that down in the city of Philadelphia during the 2020 election, because their needs meant that they had to have more staff on site. So they currently have a staffing level for their current customers. If their customer base changed, staffing levels would likely change depending on how customers structure their contracts. So it's all based on, you know, what individual counties are looking for there. That's not something we're really going to be speaking to, because that would be between the county, the vendor, and their contract. Before I move on from the ice, any other questions about the ice? So that is going to fall under additional questions that we would need to get back to you on. The software and firmware thoroughly reviewed for vulnerabilities and rear instance machines were stolen and coding published on the internet. So it has undergone and is currently undergoing as part of testing with the VSTL, the VSTL testing partner. Scanning for vulnerabilities through its software, through a code review, through several different code check programs, as well as line reviews. Whether things have changed since some of that firmware was leaked, I could not say. Oh, sorry. The question was, has Dominion software and firmware been thoroughly reviewed for vulnerabilities and rear instance machines were stolen and coding published to the internet? So going back to that, it is going through a vulnerability review. It is going through a security review. That is part of the EAC VSTL process. But how much code has changed and if things have changed since that leaked, I could not say off the top of my head. So, going to move on to the Dominion ICX, And this is the other BMD ballot marking device submission that is part of this process. So the ICX is completely new to New York State. It is a roughly 2-foot tablet that, unlike the other machines being controlled by iButtons, is controlled by a smart card. In the last demo, I did make a misstatement because I'm too used to referring to smart cards as RFID smart cards. This is not an RFID smart card. This is electrical contact only, using standard FIPS FIPS cryptography to encrypt the key code on this, and is then relayed through electronic contact through this port here, through the electronic contacts on this. So there are voter cards. While this would be up to the county, we don't recommend using them. They are one-time use only and would need to be reprogrammed for each voter going through. And you need the poll worker card to set it up anyways. So it's an additional point of failure that is not necessary to the system. So we don't recommend using it. There are poll worker cards, which is what the poll worker would have on election day. And there are technician cards in case of the need for any diagnostic maintenance. That would not be really seen by either the voter or the election inspectors. That would be something that would be kept back at the Board of Elections for doing your quality controls before the election, doing your hash checks, stuff like that. So we're going to focus on the poll worker card going through. So insert my poll worker card. And the voter that I just signed in, who needs to use the BMD, is going to be ballot style 1. Actually, let me back up a bit. I just tapped the enable AVS controller. I'm actually going to untap it first because we'll go through everything. But first, I'm just going to go through the version where you don't use the AVS controller. I'm going to activate it. I'm going to vote in English. It brings up the image of my ballot. It brings up the back of my ballot. I can zoom in there. Zoom in here too. I can start voting. I'm just going sort of randomly through this. I can review my ballot here. And then I can print my ballot. And I know that a lot of the discussion around the ICX has been talking about is a configuration where the ICX ballot is slightly different from the standard machine ballot, has barcodes on it, it doesn't look like a normal ballot. That's not what we are getting in New York State. So New York State, on the printout, have that bit, so we can all see it. It is just a standard ballot. It does standard ballot things. feeds. Slowly, but through the machine. I just fed it through the slowest machine I have out here. There's our thunk. So that record, just like any other voting record, is stored on the machine. There are no records stored on the ICX itself. So how that ballot was just cast is not stored anywhere. The only records of how a ballot is set up is when it goes through the machine here. So I'm going to pause to answer a couple of questions. AVS is accessible voter system. So yes, in this case, it is referring to the audio tactile input, the ATI, the paddles, the sip and puff, because it will give me options, as we will show shortly, of which AVS system I'm setting up. The Georgia configuration. So while the ICX does have the ability to function as a DRE machine, and just, you put the votes in on that screen and then hit cast and nothing happens, that is not part of the configuration in New York State. There is the ability to do that in other configurations because other states have legal codes that are more permissive with DRE machines. New York State, while it is hypothetically acceptable to pass a DRE machine under New York State standards, it is, I don't want to say impossible functionally, but it's pretty close. The standards for passing a DRE machine are such that no one has even considered submitting a DRE machine because it's not going to pass. So New York State is sticking with optical scan machines where one paper ballot goes through and that is the record. I have a question. So the on-screen races look different on the Dominion X than on the paper ballot, but then when it prints out, it is identical. Yes, so you have that image of the ballot in the beginning. You go through the races. And then it prints out that image of the ballot as it corresponds to your selected races. Interesting. I did not realize that Georgia was working like that. Lulu had a question regarding Georgia and followed up with, Georgia is making everyone use the ballot marking device to fill out their ballots and then submit it that way. That is not how this has been submitted. That is not how it would intended to be used. It could be used to print someone's ballot in a pinch if for whatever reason they found that they had, in a freak accident, all their ballots destroyed. You could use the BMD to use people to print their ballots, just like on previous ballot marking devices. In cases of freak accidents like that, you could use the ballot marking device to fill out those ballots. It would certainly never be recommended to be used that way. As such, I wouldn't do it that way, but But yeah, again, the capability is there because you can't remove that capability from a BMD. You have to be able to have voters vote on it. But county procedure should never lead to that in the original sense. Wasn't the ICE originally certified in New York State based on a combination of standards for DREs and standards for optical scanners, since New York State has no written standards for tabulating BMDs? I'd have to double check on that, because there are accessibility requirements, which is where BMDs usually fall in. And then with optical scanners, it's the optical scanner portion. So I did say we would do some more with the ICX, because yes, you can just use the tablet, but the majority of people using an accessible voting session are likely not going to be using the tablet. Although if someone, going back to examples that I've heard of, especially coming out of New York City, I do know that there is a story that goes around of a double amputee that basically fills their ballot out with a pen. Replacing that with a stylus and going right through the BMD would also be an option. So just doing it right on the tablet screen. But other options. I'm going to enable AVS controller. Now I remove my card. I'm going to go to ATI. So.
Audio tactile interface ATI. You can hear this instruction demo again.
I'm assuming everyone can hear that.
The rectangular green help button on the device to skip the instructions and continue to the ballot. Would you like to turn off the display for privacy? Yes. No. To select this option, press the red.
I'm actually going to turn it down a little bit just so I don't have to yell quite so much over it.
Message again. Press the blue down button. To go to the yes button, press the blue up button.
I'm not going to turn off the display just because, although an audio voter probably would just for privacy, I'm trying to show this to you.
Official ballot for general election, State of New York, County of Schenectady, November 3rd, 2020. To go to the next action, press the blue down button. To go to options allowing you to change language, text up next. To go to the next contest, press the red select button. To go to the next option, press contest 1 of 10. Electors for president and vice president, vote for 1. There are 8. Electors for Joseph R. Biden for president, Kamala D. Harris for vice president. Electors for Donald J. Trump for president, Michael R. Pence for vice president. Republicans. Electors for Donald J. Trump for president, Michael R. Pence for vice president. Conservative. Electors for Hallie Hawkins for president, Angela Nicole Walker for vice president. Green. You selected. Electors for Hallie Hawkins for president, Angela Nicole Walker for vice president. Green. The contest is now fully voted. You select this choice. Next. To go to the next contest, press the red select button. Contest 2 of 10. Representative in Congress, vote for 1. There are 7 choices in this contest. To vote for this contest, and here's a list of choices. Taco, Democratic. To select this choice, press the red select button. To go to the next choice, press the blue down button. To go to the contest description, press the blue up button. Aldi, Elizabeth L. Joy, Republican. To select this choice. Elizabeth L. Joy, Conservative. To select this. Aldi Taco, Working Families. To select this choice, press the red select button to go to the next. You selected Aldi Taco, Working Families. The contest is now fully voted. To deselect this choice, press the red select button. Next. To go to the next contest, press the red select button. To go to the next option, press the blue down button. To go to the previous choice, press the blue up button.
So I'm going to press the blue down button.
Previous. To go to the previous contest, press the red select button. To go to the review button, press the blue down button. To go to the previous option, press the blue up button.
Press the blue up button.
To go to the next contest, press the red select button. To go
I'm
to the
gonna
next
press the red button.
contest 3 10. Senator votes for one. There are 5 choices in this contest. To vote for this contest, and here the list of Theresa McCommon, Democratic. To select this choice, press the red select button. James Ed Tedesco, Republican. To select this choice, press the red select button. To go to the next choice, press the blue down button.
Blue down button again.
Tedesco, Conservative. To select this choice,
And I'll
press
select
the red
this one
select
with the red.
button. You selected James Ed Tedesco.
I'll press the blue
To
down
go to
button.
the next contest, press the red select button. To go to the next option, press the blue down button. To go to the previous choice, press the blue up button.
And it's important to note that as the user is using it, they will get used to the commands,
Next.
so they
To
don't
go to
actually
the
need
next
to wait
contest, press the
for the
red
command to
select
go through.
button. To
They
go
can
to the next
just,
stop
as they want,
Next. To go to the next contest, press the red
Use the
select button.
controls.
To go to the next option,
to skip through. I just hit the red X button.
5
Going through it.
I'll vote for one. There are 4 choices in this contest. To vote for this contest, and here the list of choices. Press the blue down button to go to.
I'll press the blue down button, blue down button, blue down button. And because I don't really want to vote for Vince Versace, I'm going to do right.
The court judge vote for one. Please enter your right. Your entry is clear all. Delete last A.
I'm gonna do
You
A,
selected B. You select C. You select D.
D,
You selected D.
using the arrow.
E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L,
I'm going
M,
to press the blue down button,
P, Q,
until I
R,
get
S,
space.
V, W, X, Y, Z, space. You selected space. Z.
And then I'm gonna
You
do
selected Z. Y. You
Y,
selected X.
X,
You selected X. W. You selected W. X. Y.
I'll continue
Z,
pressing the
space,
blue
dot,
button.
dash, apostrophe. Cancel your entry.
I don't want to cancel. I want to
Contest. You're the court judge. Vote for one. Cancel your entry. Accept your entry. A, B, C, D, space, Z. You selected. Right hand. Your entry is A, B, C, D, space, Z, Y, X, W. The contest is now fully voted. To deselect this choice, press the red select button. Next. To go to the next contest, press the red select button. To go to George C. Sillijuk. You selected George C. Sillijuk, Democratic. You have one choice left in this contest. To deselect this choice, press the red select button. To go to the next choice, press the blue down button. To go to the contest description, press the blue up button.
This is a vote for two.
You
I'm just going to vote for one. It told me that I have more choices to make if I so choose.
To deselect this choice,
It also shows me on the screen that I have more choices to
press
make
the
if
blue
I
down
so
button
choose.
to go. Kelly,
I'll continue scrolling through
right hand.
with the
Next.
blue down button. I'll press the red X.
Small D Tonka. You next. Yes. To go to the next. Contest 8.
Button.
To select
Now,
this choice. You next. To go. Contest 9 of 10. Proposal number 2. Proposal number 2. As amendment allowing the complete or partial forfeiture of a pop. Yes.
it does read out the
To
full
select this
proposal.
choice. You next.
I'll give you This is our longest one, so I'll let her read out the whole proposal.
Proposal number 3, as amendment authorizing the use of forest preserved land for specified purposes. The proposed amendment will create a land account with up to 250 acres of forest preserved land eligible for use by towns, villages, and counties that have no viable alternative to using forest preserved land to address specific public health and safety concerns as a substitute for the land removed from the forest preserve. Another 250 acres of land will be added to the forest preserve, subject to legislative approval. The proposed amendment also will allow bicycle trails and certain public utility lines to be located within the width of specified highways that cross the forest preserve while minimizing removal of trees and vegetation. Shall the proposed amendment be approved? There are 2 yes. To select this choice, press the you selected yes. The contest is now fully voted. Review. To go to the ballot review, press the red select button.
And it gives
to
me
go
the
to the
option
next
to review my
option, press the blue down button. To go.
I'm going to select my review
Your
option.
ballot is valid, but there are warnings. To finish the voting
And in the
session,
review,
do not
it
forget to
reminds me,
take your
I do
ballot
have
after
that
reviewing the
under vote.
contest. To go to the first contest review, press the blue ballot information. Official ballot for general contest. Electors for president and vice president, vote for 1. You have selected following choices. Choice. Electors for Howie Hawkins for president, Angela Nicole Walker for vice president. 3. To go to the next contest review, press the blue down button. To go to the previous contest review, press the blue up button. To change your current selection, press the red select button.
So you can go through review choices. I'm going to skip to my undervoted choice.
Village Frisbee vote for 2. This contest is undervoted. You have selected following
So again,
choices.
in the review, it reminds me that I have not fully voted
No
this
selection
contest.
made. To
However,
go to the
that
next
is entirely
contest
my
review,
choices of
press the blue down button to go. Contest.
We will
Print
go
ballot
ahead
to print.
and we will print the
Warning.
ballot out.
There are some warnings. Print your ballot. If you are
And again,
satisfied
just
with your
giving you one
choices,
last
print your
warning
ballot.
about
Press
the
the red
undervoted
select
ballot.
button to go. Revoking your ballot is successfully printed. Printed cards. D1. Please take your paper ballot and scan it to finish voting.
Our little speakers from the 90s, you know, just keep going. Even if I kick them on the floor. And I have my printed ballot and my write-in. I'm going to move it a little bit closer to this so you can see it. Again, on the ICX, my write-in is sort of mimicking human handwriting, so it would require a far more in-depth review to try and identify those BMD marked ballots. I'll take my ballot, and I will run it through the ICP2. We'll go there. I am not prepared to speak on cost today because the contract would go through after certification. It would likely be an amendment of their current award contract, but none of the current certifications would be added until they're certified because none of the current certifications can go out until they're certified. I'm just not going to speak to that today. More on the ICX. Where did I leave my paddles?
Yeah.
Right. So yes, again, the poll worker card, all the smart cards, there's no magnetic stripe, there is no RFID capability, there is electronic communication standards that it follows. It is electrical, but it is not EMV. It is a separate electrical smart card certification classification that falls under data standards guidelines, and then uses FIPS protected information encryption. FIPS information cryptography to protect the information on the card beyond that. So this is the front of the card. That's the most I can show without blocking it on my fingers. Sorry, backing up. And then back of the card. So doing my paddles. Gonna pull worker card again. Oh, helps if I put it in the right way. That does show what happens if you put it in and the electrical contacts aren't there. Because if you put it in the way I just did, where instead of putting that little chip that you saw in first, I put it in the opposite way, and it's not going to detect anything because it's not having that necessary electrical contact. There was a question in the chat earlier about the valid ID number. So this is just a sample election. So other than the very first election you should ever run with machines, valid IDs really shouldn't start at 0001. We recommend a rotating range of thousands, so 1001 to 001, rolling through for each set of elections and then rolling back over once you cap out at 9. But again, we just set this up as our base default demo election. We only have one valid ID style. We didn't set up multiple districts or multiple ballot styles, anything like that. So it's just the only one we have. We will ask the question, does each voter have to do that with the card, or does the poll worker do that for them? That is going to create confusion in lines. So again, this should really only be used for voters using it as a BMD, but our recommendation would be to not have the voter card, strictly have the poll worker take their card, go over and activate it, just like currently for the ICP BMD that is not carrying over, and the ICE, the poll worker goes over and applies their I button to the machine and begins the session. To vote in English, I'm going to use the paddles.
Paddles. These are the instructions on how to navigate through the ballot using pedals. To skip this instruction and enter the ballot, press the left red pedal. Ballot. Would you like to turn off the display for privacy? To go to options allowing you to change language, text size, audio settings, contrast, quick voting, press the left red pedal. Yes, voting with privacy mask is active. Your selections are not visible on the screen.
Didn't want to do that.
Official ballot for general election, State of New York, County of Schenectady, November 3rd, 2020. To go to options allowing you to change language, text size, audio settings, contrast, quick voting and navigate the ballot, press the left red pedal. Language to select, press the left red pedal. Text size to select, press the left audio to view, to select, press the left red pedal. View options. To close options menu, press the left red pedal. Black on white. To select, press. Official ballot for next. To go to the next contest, more. To more options. To close up more. To select, press the left red pedal. More options. To close options menu, press the quit voting. Confirm. Are you sure you want to quit voting? Yes, quit voting.
So I did not mean to put up that privacy screen. So 1 second. That means you can't see it. So.
Paddles. These are the instructions on how to navigate through the ballot using pedals. To skip this instruction and enter the ballot, press the left red pedal. Ballot is navigated using the blue right pedal. Selecting a choice or an option on the screen is performed using the red left pedal. To close this message, press the left red pedal. Would you like to turn off the display for privacy? To go to options allowing you to change language, text size, audio settings, contrast, quit voting, press the left red pedal. No. To select this option, press the left red pedal. Official ballot for general election, State of New York, County of Schenectady, November 3rd, 2020. To go to options allowing you to change language, text size, audio settings, contrast, quit voting and navigate the ballot, press the left red pedal.
So
Language. To select, press the left red pedal.
I can even.
Language options. To close español. To
Papeleta de voto oficial para la elección general Estado de Nueva
Going
York.
over to
Usar
Spanish if it's
el
needed.
3 de noviembre de 2000.
lengua, tamaño, seleccionar, precio, audio, más. Lenguaje, seleccionar, precio, opciones de idioma, English,
I'm gonna switch it back to English.
Official ballot for general election, State of New York, County of Schenectady, November 3rd, 2020.
To go to options allowing you to change language, text size, audio settings, contrast, quick next. To go to the next contest, press the left red pedal.
Start my ballot.
Contest 1 of 10.
Electors for president and vice president, vote for 1.
There are 8 choices in this contest. To go to options allowing you to change language, text size, audio.
Electors for Joseph R. Biden for president, Kamala D. Harris for vice president, Democrat.
You selected.
Electors for Joseph R. Biden for president, Kamala D. Harris for vice president, Democratic.
The code next. To go to the next contest, press the left red pedal.
Press the left paddle.
Contest 2 of 10.
Representative in Congress, Paul D. Tonko, Elizabeth L. Joy, Republican.
To select this choice, you selected.
Elizabeth L. Joy,
Next. To go to the next contest, press the left red pedal.
Red button to go to the next contest.
Contest 3.
Theresa McCommon, Democratic.
You select next. To go to the next contest, press the left red pedal.
Joseph S. St. Mary Beth,
You next. To go contest.
Vincent W.
You select next. Previous contest 4 of 10.
Member of Assembly.
Selected next. To go to the next contest, press the left red pedal. Previous. To go skip to contest 4 of 10. Selected choice.
Mary
So I wanna
Beth
deselect.
Walsh, Republican.
To deselect this choice, press the left red pedal. You unselected.
Mary Beth Walsh.
So I want to select
Republican.
Mary Beth Walsh, conservative.
You selected.
Mary Beth Walsh.
Previous. To go to the previous contest. Select next. Previous. Next. To go. Select next. To go to the contest. 5 of 10. Next. To go.
Just
Georgia.
going through.
You selected.
Georgia C. Silica.
Again,
Democratic.
using my
You have one
vote
choice
for
left
you
in
to
this contest.
undervote.
Justice Kelly. Justice, right in.
Next. To go to the next contest. 7 of.
Paul D. Top.
You select next. To go to the contest.
Yes,
You next.
yes.
You selected next. To go to the next contest, press the left red pedal.
Yes,
And once you get familiar with the paddles,
Review.
they almost
To
get
to
you
the ballot
very- go
review,
very,
press the
very
left
quickly.
red pedal.
especially if you have the visual image.
Previous. To go to the previous contest, press the left red paddle. Select review. Your ballot is
Review.
valid, but there
I
are
still have my
warnings. To
warning
finish the voting
that I have
session,
under
do
voting
not
ballot.
forget to print your ballot after ballot information contest.
Go through,
Contest.
gives me that warning on the undervote.
This contest is undervoted. You can't. Print ballot. To print
I'm
your
gonna go ahead
ballot,
and
press
print
the
the
left red warning. There are some print your ballot. If you are satisfied with your choices,
Print my ballot.
thank you for voting your ballot is successfully printed. Printed cards. D1. Please take your paper ballot and scan it to finish voting.
And I have my paper ballot. So, the lifetime counter does actually show up on the ICX. However, the ICX also has administrative menus like the menus on the machine to get more in-depth information. And sorry, I think I just said lifetime counter. It's not the lifetime counter that shows up. It is the counter for this election. The lifetime counter is under the more information tab. So I'm going to submit my ballot again into the ICP2. So going to any more slots on the ICX that we have a question on. Are there any more slots than the slot for the ATI and the slot for the card? There is, of course, also a jack for the printer cable because there can be no wireless printer. It does need to be hard cabled because this is a voter's voted ballot. There's no wireless ability at all on this. So there's that. That's on the back of the machine here. Comes out of this section here. And then losing my sip and puff. Losing my sip and puff again. It also has a data port. So over here, there is a USB that would be sealed here on election day. That USB is loading the election data. There should also be a backup USB if you are using it as a DRE. But again, we are not using it as a DRE in New York State. So there is no need to record two types of information because again, there is no information being recorded. There is only information going from the USB to the machine. Do we want to go through the sip and puff on the on the ICX as well? Yes, no, maybe. So the seal on the USB port, Melissa, my handy dandy camera woman, is coming over here. This is a slot for a standard harpoon seal. You'd be recording that at the beginning of the day. That should not be, well, actually, you'd be recording it to confirm that the same information that was there on the seal sheet when it went out is there, because this should not be opening at all from when the election is loaded. So you'd be checking that security seal. It should be staying sealed throughout the whole course of the election. It would be a numbered harpoon seal sticking through, and probably also a redundant sticky seal on one of the sides, connecting the hatch to the general body of the machine. we'll go ahead and do the sip and puff. Again, please bear with me. My lungs are. And this would be sitting at a privacy booth with the privacy booth protection up to try and alleviate any overseeing it. Because that was a Georgia question about privacy curtains.
Sip and puff. These are the instructions on how to navigate through the ballot using
Again,
sip and puff tube. To
I'm
skip
not
into
swapping
instructions,
out
enter the
my
ballot.
sip and puff
Tube.
because
Ballot
I'm
is navigated by
today,
puffing into the
but
tube.
this should
To
be
a choice
coming
or an
off,
option
and
on
the
the
new one
screen
should be
is
coming out
controlled
of
by
its
sipping
seal
into the tube.
and
To close
being
this
affixed
message,
in someone who's
inhale the
going
sip
to
and
use
puff.
it.
Would you like to turn off the display for privacy? To go to options allowing you to change language, text size, audio settings, contrast, quick voting, inhale the sip and puff. Yes, to select this option, inhale the sip and puff. No, to select this option, inhale the sip and puff.
Sorry, I'm trying to.
Official ballot for general election, state of New York, county of Schenectady, November 2nd.
Language, to select, inhale the sip and puff. Audio, to view, to more, to select, inhale.
Official ballot for general.
Next, to go to the next contact, inhale the sip and puff.
So we can try. I can't bend like that
Next,
and breathe.
to go to the ballot review, inhale the sip and puff.
There.
Next, to go to the next contact, language, to select, inhale the sip and puff. Text, audio, view, more, to select.
Electors for Joseph Arpaio for president.
You selected.
Electors for Joseph Arpaio for president. Kamala D. Harris for vice president. Democratic.
The contest is now next. To go to the next contest, inhale the sip and puff. Contest 2 of 10.
Representative in Congress, vote for 1.
There are 7 choices in this contest. To go to options allowing you to change language, text size, audio.
Paul B. Tonko.
You selected.
Paul B. Tonko. Democratic.
The next. To go to the next contest, inhale the sip and puff. Contest 3 of 10.
State Senator, vote for 1.
There are 5.
Theresa McCommon. Democratic.
To select this choice, inhale the sip and puff.
James N. Tedisco. Republican.
To select this choice, inhale the sip. You selected.
James N. Tedisco. Republican.
Next, to go to the next contest, inhale the sip and puff. Contest 4 of 10.
Member of Assembly, vote for 1.
There are 6.
Joseph S. Seaman. Democratic.
To select, you selected.
Joseph S. Seaman.
Next, to go to the next contest, inhale the sip and puff. Contest 5 of 10.
You're a court judge, vote for 1.
There are 4 choices in this contest. To go to options allowing you to change language, text size, audio settings, text size, to select audio, view, more.
Vincent W. versus
You selected.
Vincent W. Versace. Independent.
The contest is now vote next. To go to the next contest, contest 6. 10.
Village trustee vote George C. Phillips.
You selected.
George Kelly P. Light.
You selected.
Kelly P. Light. Republican.
The next. We will skip to review. Your ballot is valid, but there are warnings. To finish the voting session, do not forget to print your ballot after reviewing all contests. To go through options allowing you to change language, text size, audio settings, contrast, quick voting and navigate the ballot, inhale the sip and puff. Ballot information, contest,
Electors for president and vice president vote.
contest, contest, contest. Contest 3 of 10. Selected choice. James. Next. To go to the next contest. Next. To go to contest 5 of 10. Select next. To go to contest. Selected choice. Kelly P. Light. Next. To go to the next contest 7 of
Paul B. Tonko, Democratic.
you selected.
Paul B. Tonko, Democratic.
Next. To go to the contest 8.
Yes.
You selected.
Yes.
The contest is now fully voted. You selected. Next. To go to the next contest 9.
Yes.
You selected.
Yes.
Next.
Yes.
You selected. Review. Your ballot is valid. To finish the voting session, do not forget to print your ballot after reviewing all contests. To go to options allowing you to change language, text size, audio settings, contrast, quick voting and navigate the ballot. Inhale the sip and puff.
All right, I've cleared up all my warnings.
Ballot. Language to select. Inhale language español. Language to select. Inhale text audio view more. Language text audio to view more. To so next to go. Skip to
Oh,
contest 3 of 10. Select next. Previous to go to contest. Next. Previous. Skip the review. Your contest. Print ballot to information. You cannot make any more changes after printing the ballot. Print your ballot. Thank you for voting. Your ballot is successfully printed. Printed cards. D1. Please take your paper ballot and scan it to finish voting.
going to scan that ballot. That just happens to be my last voter of the day. So as an inspector, I'm going to take my I button and I'm going to apply it to the machine, and I'm going to go to management. I'm going to close my poll. I'm going to confirm it. And I get my results tape. I will tear off my tape. I have results totals. And I am all set. Let me go. Have to paste that one more. As an inspector, I'm going to go through. I am going to complete my canvas for the election. And I will be all set and good to go at the end of the night. I'm going to follow my Board of Elections procedures for returning the ballots, either by sealing them in the machine, sending them back in sealed bags, however those procedures are set up in that individual county. And I am all set and good to go. The last piece of the system that we are going to demonstrate, Melissa, if you want to just hand over, and this is going to be less of a demonstration and more just showing off and talking about it, because it doesn't really work without being connected to the election management system in the closed setup. We can actually honestly just do it from that side.
Oh, okay.
Is the ICC, or ImageCast Central. The ICC is Dominion's version of the central count. It involves a commercial off-the-shelf scanner. I have one out right now. I believe we currently have 3 still on submission because one stopped being sold. Sorry, choking a bit. But so the ballots are loaded on the tray here. They're scanned through. The images are sent to that air gap server and are used to tabulate, in this case, your absentee ballots as a central count system. How many machines are estimated to be needed per voter to keep lines from forming? So here at the New York State Board of Elections, we don't necessarily deal with lines at an individual voting site. We deal with set numbers. We are going to need to get usability studies on the ICX and the ICE, and from there, numbers will be tabulated for part of the final submission of the maximum number of voters in a district for a machine. That number has not yet been tabulated. Usability studies are generally part of the public section of the TDP, yes. Most of the ones I've seen have been commissioned by outside private academics, but outside academics, and then included as part of the TDP. Technical data package, it is still undergoing a security review. Once it has undergone the security review with our testing partners and finalized, the public facing sections will be able to go out to those requested. I do not. I know it. Bob Stromberg asked, do I have a back of the envelope number of max number of BMD users there have been? I know it's out of New York City. I know, pretty sure it's over 35, but I do not have the max number off the top of my head. We are essentially reaching the end of our time for the day. We do not have an Lou is asking if we have an anticipated date for this system to come up for approval with the board. It has not been scheduled for a board meeting, and until such time as we have it scheduled, we refraining from saying it'll be up for approval by this date, because until we are through testing, we don't want to comment on that. It will have at least 2 weeks before the board for them to review all the information before they vote on it. I would like to thank our ASL interpreters, as well as my camera woman and chat monitor, Melissa Portalatin. You have all been great today. Thank you all for coming out. OGS should have a recording of this demonstration for us to put up soon. It probably won't be up until Monday at this point, but we should hopefully have it up next week. Other than that, have a great weekend. Thank you all for coming out. If you have any specific questions that we responded to with our sort of cut and paste, please send us an email answer in the chat. You can send those emails to election_ops@elections.ny.gov, and we will hopefully be able to get them answered. Thank you. Have a great rest of the day. Have a good weekend.